Hello, welcome to Katie's Kitchen. I'm Katie, and today I'm going to can 20 pounds of ground beef. I did 4 of these pans full at about 5 pounds each, because 5 times 4 is 20. And it took quite a while, so this section is sped up, and I'm only going to show you 1 round of cooking ground beef, or else we would be here all day. Anyway, this little black tool that I'm using is fantastic. I got it at Dollar Fitty Tree. I like to call it Dollar Fitty Tree, even though it's all like $1.25 each now. Might as well be $1.50, right? So I've got that. It's a nice little ground beef stomper. You can get it for $1.25 plus tax at your local Dollar Tree. And here I'm just browning up this 5 pounds of ground beef. It's a huge pan. And I like canning ground beef because it's really easy to use. I like to use it in stuff like, I don't know, Zatarain's dirty rice or my own dirty rice recipe. And, oh, there's that tea I made the other week. I like using it in that, spaghetti sauce, sloppy joes, shepherd's pie, anything but hamburger helper. I would not recommend it for hamburger helper because for some reason, every time I use it in hamburger helper, which has only been twice, it just does not turn out right. So I don't do that. I don't go there. I use fresh ground beef for that, or I just don't make hamburger helper at all. But it works very well in just about anything else besides that. I do not put salt or seasoning in my ground beef. No beef broth, no salt, no seasoning, nothing. It's just plain hot water. And here I have 2 different jars. I have a wide mouth and a narrow mouth, or regular mouth, and their lids. They come in 2 pieces. And you can see the funnel fits on top of both of them. So you want to put your ground beef in one of the jars. Now these jars have been cleaned and sterilized, and I did previously load a ton of jars. This is actually the last jar that I had to fill. So I'm filling that for you, and I'm going to put everything that I have left over into that jar. Shake it down a little bit, tap it a little bit, not too hard, and there you go. It is well above the 1-inch headspace mark, which is the lowest collar on either of these jars. So if I compact it down a little bit, you shouldn't do that too much, it's still below that mark. And don't be like me and use a fork to take out extra stuff from the jar, because you're just gonna get frustrated. And now I've taken it down to about that collar, the 1-inch head mark. Put some water in there, and now I have to debubble it, which, by the way, do not be me and do not use a metal object to debubble and also hold on to your jar. So now, yeah, naughty, don't use that. Now I'm gonna take a paper towel and dip it in my vinegar here and go around the ring, or go around the rim, and get any food particles that might be stuck on there. And the vinegar helps to break up some of the grease, but trust me, you're going to get grease leaking out of your jars. Just wait and see. Okay, I have filled my canner with about 3 inches of water. I don't know, I just use that line. Then you see it's very well used and stained, and I'm lining up the jars around the outside to make sure they all fit. And you can see, of course, when I put the jar in there, the water displaces and gets higher. And here I could fit about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can fit 9 pints per level. There's 2 levels to this, because this is a All-American 921. And if you look right there on my counter, it's a very messy process. The previous clip, I had already wiped the counter down after the canner was loaded. And as you can see, it looks like you can fit 10, but you really can't, so don't try. There's more ground beef right there to the left, and as you can see, I'm putting another platform or rack on the top, and I put one in the center first because I don't want the rack to tilt, just in case it's possibly hanging off at one of the jar rings. So you put that in the center, and you put them around that center one. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with canning ground beef. You just have to follow the safety guidelines that are available on 2 different websites that I have linked below in the description. Please check those out. You know, I've been doing this for probably over 10 years, and I just kind of either go from memory, or I do double check the times, and, you know, elevations, the times and the weights and stuff. Okay, here is Vaseline, or any reasonable Vaseline substitute. That just happens to be what I had. Don't use VapoRub, just unscented petroleum jelly for your All-American canner, because if you look at the lid, there is no rubber ring. There's no rubber ring. There's a bevel, and then there's, you know, that's the way it's shaped. And what the petroleum jelly is for is to keep it from adhering to itself, and to help keep, it helps the lid release, and it helps lubricate the lid so you can adjust the lid easily, and it keeps it from sticking to the sides of the pot when, you know, to make it easier to remove. It just makes the lid way easier to work with. And I've rubbed it all around the bevel, under the ledge, everywhere that it's going to touch the pot. Anywhere metal on metal, that's where I've put the petroleum jelly. So there's a groove right there on the pot that you want to line up with the arrow on the lid right there. So you line those up, and you put the arrow a little bit out to that side, and then you turn it so that the arrow lines up with that notch. And here you see I'm adjusting it. I'm having absolutely no problem moving that lid around because I put the petroleum jelly on it. And you don't have to put it on there every single time. It's just that I had given that lid and the pot a really good scrubby bath the last time I used it, so it really needed more. And okay, so now I'm putting on the locks, and I'm not tightening them just yet. I'm making sure that they're all seated. And it's actually a little bit difficult right now because I did not wipe off the petroleum jelly from my fingers. But we've got to keep on going, right? So once I get all the locks in place and, you know, sitting there, I am going to tighten them like I've changed my tire. I'm going to tighten opposite to opposite, just like that. Just like you would a tire. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Just remember that. And also, I make no apologies for my hair. Okay, I was having a day. Anyway. And once I get those tightened, I'm going to turn the stove on, remove anything flammable from near the burner. And here I'm wiping the petroleum jelly off of the those handles, because I don't want to have to struggle with it or wipe it off when it's hot. So I'm just doing one more check around the edge. Make sure that you have an even gap, or as even as possible, all the way around. And I actually had 2 canner loads, and I'm only showing you one. But I did have 2 canner loads, and I ended up with a lot of jars. Okay, here I am venting it. I have vented it with a steady stream of steam for 10 minutes before I put the weight on. And I've put the weight at 10 pounds because I am at less than 1,000 feet elevation. And here you can see, after a while, the pressure has gone up, or the temperature has gone up. This is a temperature gauge. So this gauge actually reads temperature and not actual pressure. And oh, it does read pressure. I'm sorry. So it's at about 10 pounds, and at about 10 to 12 pounds, this weight starts jiggling, just like that, just like you saw in the beginning of the video. Now the water dripping around it, that's normal. That's not leaking. That's just steam condensing inside the weight and dripping down and sizzling on top of the lid, which, by the way, is extremely hot. So I've adjusted my temperature on my stove, and the thing about the weights is they're supposed to jiggle and pause, and jiggle and pause. But I can't get that with mine because my stove auto-adjusts the coil, and it turns it on and off and on and off, and I keep having to start my time over if I don't let that weight just jiggle constantly. And it always turns out fine, but that's why in any of my past or future videos you hear that weight jiggling constantly. That's why, is because my stove sucks. Okay, so it has been turned off. It's been 75 minutes. I've turned off the stove. The weight is no longer jiggling, and the temperature is just about to 0. The temperature and the pressure, just about to 0. And we're going to wait. It's very, very important that you not take even the weight off until it says 0. If it's not touching that peg at the 0 mark, you're not taking off anything. You gotta wait. No pun intended. So we're just gonna chill out here and watch. And you know, I like canning. I can all sorts of things: vegetables, meat, sometimes jams and jellies, but mostly I use the pressure canner. And what's really good about pressure canners, any pressure canner, there's no pressure canner that, you know, I say is not as good. I don't know anything about the electric ones, but I can't speak to those. But I like them because you can also use the pot as a water bath. You just kind of loosely put the lid on, and you don't tighten it down, and you don't put the weight on. And you can use it to water bath anything that is a high acid, high sugar content food, like jams and jellies and pickles and stuff like that. You cannot and should not water bath low acid foods, despite what anybody else is trying to tell you. Yeah, they did that a long time ago, but that was a long time ago, and we know better now, and we do better now. So here I'm taking off the weight, and it was just a little bit of a hiss. So I took off the weight, and then I waited about 10 minutes for that, and now I'm very carefully undoing the locks. And it is still very hot, and I'm flirting with disaster here. So I'm going to lift the lid off, but I'm going to lift it and tilt it away from me to shield myself from the steam, because look at those jars. They are boiling hot. So I'm going to show you a little close up there, and in a minute here we're going to get really quiet and we're going to listen to what the normal sounds would be for a good load with no siphoning and little siphoning, just a little bit of siphoning and stuff. So shh, listen. Listening for a ping. And there was your ping. That was a jar sealing. That's a good sound. And all the hissing and screaming and stuff that they're doing is also normal. However you say that word, whatever. So here we go. And you know, they've been in there kind of chilling out for a while. I've heard several more pings. So I'm going to take that lid, move it aside, and put my jars to the side. A lot of people use towels, and that's good, and I use towels too, but I couldn't find my canning towels that I usually use. I don't know what's happened to them, so I just got the box from Sam's, and I'm using that. And by the way, those picker-uppers, they don't pick up that. Knives. So I'm taking all of my jars out, and then I'm going to let those sit for 24 hours. And after that 24 hours, I took them and I washed them with soapy water, and I took all the rings off. Do not ever store these with rings. Took all the rings off, made sure that, did the pickup test with the lid, and made sure that they were all sealed. No hollow sounds. Okay, because they can have a false seal, and there will be a hollow sound. You tap them, and you'll be able to tell the difference. The hollow sound, it'll just sound like a hollow drum. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and tap the bell button so you know when I upload more stuff.